Now let's talk about this fallback locale. And at the moment, we have only one. So we are saying if a translation doesn't exist, fall back to the English translation. But you can also have multiple ones. For example, we can pass an array here and say the first fallback language is going to be Spanish. So if a translation doesn't exist, first fall back to Spanish. If the Spanish doesn't exist, then fall back to English. Now, back to our website, at the moment we have this text hello for all three languages. But if we go to Japanese translations and comment this out, meaning it doesn't exist, and then in our website switch to Japanese, you notice we fall back to Spanish because there is a Spanish translation. But if we comment out this one as well, and then select Japanese again, we fall back to the English version. So we can pass different fallback languages in an array and have multiple fallback locales. The next topic I want to talk about is the custom components we have in this i18n plugin. So far, we've been using the method like t, d, and n to output messages, datetime formats, and numbers. But sometimes you want to have more flexibility and customize that number or datetime in a way you want. And with these functions, we can't really do that. We have three components that we can use them in our application. So just like any other component, we can provide the tags. And these are the three components. All of them start with i18n and then -t for translation, N for number, and D for date. Let's just start with translation, and we can open and close it like this. And this component can take multiple props. For example, we can provide the tag, and that would be the HTML tag. If I say H2, then this will translate to an H2. Then we can have a key path prop that refers to the key in our translations. So here, if we say greet, and let's comment this out and go back to our website, we can see the text hello, and we can switch between translations, and this still works the same way. So this can get quite elegant, and we can have scoped slots within this component to grab different parts of this message. But I would say this is not the best example when it comes to translations. I think this custom component can be very useful when it comes to dates or numbers, because we want to grab a certain part of a date. And with translations, we don't have that problem. So let me show you what I mean. Let's have a date component. So we can use the i18n-d, and this will take a tag again. This time I will use an h1. And instead of a key path, which looks for a key in the translations, we can have a value here, and we want to show a date here. So we can use a column before the value and say new date in here. That will give us the current date and time. Then we can set the format using the format prop. And again, this is looking for one of the formats we defined in our translations. So either short or long for date. Let's say long here. And similar to that D function, we could set the locale, for example, to EN/US, whatever the language is. But for now, let's not use that. If we go back to our website, you notice we have the date. We can switch between the languages, and it works properly. And of course, we can see the difference in size because this is an H2 and this is an H1. But now let's say I want to style the year differently from the rest of the text. And this is where the power of these custom components comes in. In these custom components, we can use something called scoped slots, which is part of Vue.js, and you can read about it in the documentation. But basically, we can manipulate the parts of our component right here. And we can use a template tag here, which then we need to pass the name of that slot. And in order to do that, we need to bind the format prop to an object. The first element here is the key, and this key is this format. So this would translate to format long or format short. Now the second argument is the part we want to change. For example, I want to change the year, and right now it's numeric, so I will keep it as it is. So I will pass the option here numeric, and now I have access to this year, which is going to be part of the props of this component. So on this template, I can use a pound sign and then the key here, which is year, and then I will set this to props. So again, this is part of Vue scoped slots, and we are using named slots. And if we think of each section of this date as a different slot, that's what we are doing. This one is called a year, and that's why we are grabbing that using this pound sign. Now within the template, we can have a span and apply our styles here. So this could be any CSS. I'm just using inline style, and I will set the color to red. Now the content of this span is going to be props.year. this props right here, and the year property we have in the new date. Back to our website, you can see the date is now red, and we can grab any part of this date we want. For example, let's grab the hour. We can set it to numeric or 2 digits. Let's use numeric. And again, we want to have a template. This time the name is hour and the props stay the same. We want to grab the props. Let's set the color to blue and make it bold. So for the content, we want to say props hour. Back to our website, you notice this number 2 is blue and also bold, and instead of 02, it just says 2. If we change this numeric to 2 digit like this, then we can see 02. So this is the example of the D component or date component. Let's have another example for the number. And this one is very similar to the date one. So we want to use i18n-n for number, which again takes a tag. Let's have an h1. Then it needs the value. So this is going to be a number. We want to bind this to, let's say, a random number like this. Then we can set the format for this one. Let's say currency. And if we go back to our website, we can see the number in different languages. But now we want to style this. For example, I want to style the symbol of the money. So inside the component, I'm going to have a template. The name of this template is going to be currency. And again, we want to pass the props here, and within the template, we will have a span, and let's set the color to yellow and set the font size to 2rem. Now, the content of this span is going to be props.currency. Now, this one is a bit easier because we don't have to pass an object to the format to grab different parts, but we will see another example. If we go back to our website, you notice this is in yellow. Maybe yellow is not the best choice. Let's say orange. Let's change the font size to font weight to see if that works. And yes, the symbol is in bold and orange, and we can see the number. Now let's have another example. And for example, we want to grab this comma, which is called a group. So again, we can copy that template and paste it here, change the currency in both places here to group like this. And let's change the color to purple. And right here, you can see we have a purple comma in our currency number. So we can see it in other translations as well. So I recommend reading the documentation and learn more about these custom components if you want to use them and how you can grab different parts of a date or a number format. And we are almost done with this series. I just want to talk about the difference between Composition API and Options API and other ways we can use all of this in our application, which we will do it in the next video.